We finally have an update to the Kenwood D750. Stick around and we'll get right to it. Hey, welcome back guys, Jason, KM4ACK. We have watched the deadline or the projected deadline come and go for the Kenwood D750 mobile radio. And like many of you, I was almost beginning to think it was vaporware, but it absolutely isn't. We've got some new news on this radio, and we've got a few more details that we're going to check out today. The radio finally got FCC approval on January the 23rd. Let's jump over to the computer and let me show you what I've been able to dig up so far. Now, I will leave links down in the description below to show you exactly which website you need to go to and the numbers that you will need to punch in once you get there in order to search for this particular radio. But this is the actual grant that the FCC gave the radio. You can see right over here that it is dated for January the 23rd, 2026. So hopefully we're going to get some more information about this in a few weeks in Orlando. But let's take a look at what I've dug up so far. So first, we'll go ahead and scan through these photographs. There's good photos of pretty much every single side of the radio. So here is the top of the body of the radio, and we can't get a whole lot of information from that other than the overall length of the body of the radio. Now, taking a look at the front of it, we can clearly see a mic jack and a panel jack, along with a USB-C cable and a micro SD card slot. There's also, you'll see in just a second, there's going to be another micro SD slot on the head of the unit as well. There we are taking a look at the right side of the body and the left, not much information there. But let's take a look at the back of the radio, and it looks like we've got a data jack. I believe that is going to be GPS. And then, of course, we've got the antenna connector right here on the left in this particular photograph. The bottom of the radio doesn't give us a whole lot of information, so we'll just kind of scroll on past that. Now let's take a look at the head unit of this particular radio. We can clearly see GPS right here on the top, so that tells me that it's got a GPS unit built into it. And then we can see a pretty decent photograph of the front of the radio. And probably this is one of the better photos that I've seen of it so far. Unfortunately, it's not powered on when they made this photograph, but we'll get to see a little bit more information about this here in just a minute. Now, looking at the sides of the radio, here's that SD card slot that I was talking about where the second one is. We've got a couple of spots to plug in external speakers, one for the A band and one for the B band, another USB-C port, and then this is the port that will connect the head to the body of the radio. Taking a look at the back side of it, we don't get a whole lot of information, but we can see right here on the bottom of it, we've got a quarter 20 screw. It took me a little bit to dig and find that, but I do believe that's going to be a quarter 20 that we can use for mounting this head in your truck or your Jeep or your car or whatever. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at the user manual. Now, right up front, I'm going to admit this user manual is a little anemic. I'm going to assume that there will be additional guides that come out with this that dive a bit more into it. Maybe those are paper or maybe those are digital copies, but I'm not finding, kind of all of the information in this. So this is more of almost a quick start guide in my opinion. I think we'll get more details in additional manuals. Now, again, I'll leave links to this because I'm sure I'm not going to cover every single thing that every person wants to know, but you can have the link so you can go take a look at this manual as well. Right out of the gate, though, right down here for features, let's see, can we make that a little bit bigger? There we go. All right, it is APRS compatible, so I'm expecting, being an owner of the D75, I'm expecting the D750 to be a very well done APRS radio. Kenwood seems to be much better at putting together APRS radios as compared to other manufacturers. You can also see that we get digipeater function, so it looks like this radio is going to serve as a digipeater if you turn that on. and we get D-Star support. Now, we get direct mode, repeater mode, reflector terminal mode, and repeater terminal mode. And guys, I apologize. I'm not a big D-Star user, so I don't know a lot of information about that. I just don't have D-Star repeaters in my area to give me the ability to really play with that like I would like to. We do have a built-in GPS unit, color LCD, and then we can simultaneous reception of 2 signals. In addition to VHF, UHF, and 220, we can see right here that it will also receive on the air bands. We do have a built-in speaker on the front panel. We get a waterfall display. We've got voice processing by DSP in there. We get both built-in Bluetooth and built-in wireless LAN. And we have this micro SD card right here, and it looks like it will support up to 32 gigs. I really wish manufacturers would start expanding that. 32 gig cards are actually getting more difficult to find these days. Now, here's one that's a little bit confusing for me. Maybe one of you guys knows more about this and can put something down in the comments, but it says that it will support battery charging and data transfer via the USB-C. So does that mean I can hook up a lithium iron phosphate battery to this thing and charge it through the USB-C port? I don't know. That's a little confusing to me, but there's probably just something simple that I'm missing. We've got support for 1,000 memory channels, 1,500 repeater lists, and 30 hotspots. And then 3-step selectable transmit power. Now, don't get too married to these numbers right here, and I'll show you why in just a second. But we get 5 watts, 10 watts, and 50 watts. Now, looking at the mounting options for the radio, it does look like they're going to include the mobile mounting bracket in here. The thing I'm not a big fan of personally, there's nothing wrong with this, I'm just not a big fan of it. I don't care for this style of mount for the head unit. Those usually come with double-sided tape on here, so you just tape this to your dashboard and then mount the radio to the top. But since we have that 1/4 screw on the bottom, you can bypass this if you're like me and just don't care for it quite as much. Right here is where they give us the details on that 1/4-inch screw, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be 1/4 because it does say that we can mount this to a commercially available tripod. All typical tripods use 1/4 threads, so that's why I'm guessing that this is also going to be 1/4. Now, taking a bit closer of a look at the front panel, you can see we've got hard keys all around it, but they're married up to options that are probably going to change depending on what you're doing with the radio at any particular moment. This is the exact same way that the D750 works. Some hard buttons, but the soft options change depending on where you're at in the radio. One of these over here is going to be volume, the other one's going to be squelch, and this one's going to be a encoder, I believe, for frequency operation. Number 5, yep, operating the frequency, or changing between memory channels. We do get a front-firing speaker in the head of the radio, and that is a nice addition. This manual goes on to tell you what all the different indicators are for the various icons that appear on the screen. One that's pretty interesting is the KISS 1200 and the KISS 96. That leads me to believe that we will definitely have Bluetooth access to the KISS TNC. Now, here again is a little bit of confusing information, but I think I've got this sorted out. We looked at the output power earlier that was 5, 10, and 50 watts. This little diagram indicates 5, 10, and 20 watts, which was a little bit confusing for me. But I'll show you guys in just a second why I do believe this is a 50-watt radio for VHF and UHF, but it is 20 watts for 220. I'd really hope for 50 watts there, but 20 watts isn't bad. A lot of radios, we only get 5 watts with 220, so I'll take the 20 watts. Now, the manual does cover every single menu option that you've got in the radio, so you might can glean a little bit more information by looking at this menu list when you go over to the FCC website. Now, taking a look at the specifications page, you can see the frequency range right up here, and then if we take a look, we can see the current draw right here for 2 meters, 220, and 440. On high, we're 13 amps, and then 8 amps for 220. And if we scroll down just a little bit further, here's where I'm getting my information on the output of the radio. So you can see the 50 watts for 440 and 2 meters, and then the 20 watts for 220. Medium is 10 watts for all of them, and low is 5 watts for all of them. And then you can also see the Bluetooth version is version 5, class 1, HSP, and SPP. I'm not exactly sure what those stand for, and I'm kind of curious if this radio will be compatible with the iPhones out of the box. I know the D75 wasn't, but it'll be interesting to see if this one is. And then the wireless LAN is both 2.4 and 5 gigahertz, 802.11 A, B, G, N, and AC. And I'll be eager to talk with the Kenwood guys again when we get to Orlando in just a few more weeks. If you found today's information helpful, be sure to give us a thumbs up before you head off. We will see you guys on the next one. Until then, 7-3.